Speaking of, we jump over to the other group to see what they're up to. It's at this point that we get probably one of the stranger statements in the book. As the group is questioning why Vale would walk off with some unknown creature, or why a giant alien mammoth would escort them to the Citadel, Luther Mann explains a theory of his, but also explains why there are different creatures on the Ark, and it would seem to bring into question the author's understanding of the Halo Ring's effect. To quote,
"You're saying,"
Untho attempted to clarify,
"that the Forerunners kept natural predators of sentient species on the Ark, so they wouldn't go extinct when the sentient beings on their own world suddenly died off?"
Yes, they were trying to save entire ecosystems and not just sentient beings whenever the Halo was activated. End quote. And later on, quote, "When the Ark was damaged by the replacement Halo about 2 years ago, things clearly went a little haywire here. The various walled sections of the Ark are called refugia. They're like wildlife paddocks the size of a moon. We're talking enormous cages for different species. It's extremely likely that one of these walls were breached, allowing different specimens into one another's territory." End quote. So, while this does explain why we never saw any other species on the Ark in Halo 3, a point remarked in the book itself, this brings into question everything we know about the Flood and the Halo Rings. In the Forerunner saga, it's noted that the rings kill off anything with a nervous system, no matter how rudimentary. Further, in the Halo graphic novel story Last Voyage of the Infinite Succor, we see that the Flood are very much capable of infecting animals. The Flood's infection capability is not at all reliant on it being sentient, a term heavily misused in the quotes from before, but on the presence of a central nervous system and sufficient calcium stores. And again, as we saw in Cryptum, almost anything with the most basic nervous system is susceptible to the Halo effect. In short, Luther's explanation makes no goram sense, especially when you consider the fact that the Flood presence on the Ark has been exterminated. So, moving forward, Luther explains that he thinks some of the beings on the Ark were bred to serve the will of the Monitor, explaining the compliance of this mammoth creature and the other creatures leading Vale away. At this point, we finally jump back to Olympia Vale. Having followed the creature for some time, she's more or less dumped into a chute of some kind that takes her to a mysterious corridor. It's not long before a strange golden light appears before her, twisting and contorting until it takes on the shape of Vale herself, and introduces itself as the Monitor of the Ark 000 Tragic Solitude. Solitude reveals that the creature that brought Vale to him releases a natural psychotropic pheromone that humans are susceptible to. Using that and her communication piece, Solitude was able to bring Vale to him with ease. Through their conversation, we learn that Solitude, during its time, merged with the Ark to such a degree that it sees itself as the Ark rather than just a caretaker. Solitude was also the one who activated the Halo Rings in order to get humanity to reactivate the portal, allowing Solitude to retrieve the necessary material to fix the damage done to the Ark, and that it planned to activate the rings and wipe out all life, allowing the galaxy to start anew. When Vale brings up the fact that the Forerunners wanted humanity to inherit their legacy, Solitude counters with the fact that this was not a universal sentiment, a nice reference to the Forerunner saga. Ultimately, Solitude believes that it will succeed, and nothing Vale or any of the group can do will stop it. Jumping back to Henry, Holt, and Uze, they find themselves under attack by a tree, or rather a tree-like organism. They find temporary refuge in a cave just out of reach of the plant creature, and to everyone's surprise, the comms are working again. Holt uses the opportunity to contact Kodiak, who, like a complete badass, sprints to Holt's location. Yeah, he sprints an hour's walk in a few minutes. Once there, Kodiak tries to sneak up on the tree creature, and while he gets a good hit in, he is quickly immobilized by the thing's roots. And just like in New Blood, we have the eternal issue with Mjolnir's shields. The roots are easily able to get under the armor components of Kodiak's Mjolnir and try to work under the tech suit. I have to ask, where the hell are Kodiak's shields? Why is it that new media always seems to portray Spartan shields like Mass Effect's kinetic shields, the latter only activating when an object is moving at a certain velocity? That is not how energy shields work. They are always present until depleted. So, Uze shows up and cuts into the tree, which allows Kodiak to get free. The two then use their energy swords to cut the tree into pieces, killing it. Uze and Kodiak regroup with Holt and Henry, and they head out for the Citadel. Just outside it, they meet up with Untho, Luther, Zone, and Kola. They all agree that the Monitor is likely setting a trap, but with no other options, head into the Citadel to deactivate the Halo Array. And of course, once they do, that activates the trap card. Armigers appear, this time with quite clear murderous intent. The group tries to make their way back to the elevator that brought them up there, but finds themselves split up in the process. Luther, Henry, Uze, Kola, and Drifts make it to the elevator, only to find it out of commission. With little other choice, they jump down a chute in the back of the chamber, just like the Chief and Arbiter did years before. Meanwhile, Untho, Zone, Holt, and Kodiak find themselves surrounded. A portal opens beneath Kodiak and before it closes, the rest of the group jumps in, seemingly to safety. Meanwhile, Vale and Solitude have kept up with their conversation. Vale continues to try and get Solitude to reconsider harvesting the solar system and activating the halo array, but to no avail. It seems Solitude has judged humanity and other species to be more harmful than anything, and that the galaxy must start anew. Interestingly, during the conversation, Vale asks Solitude, what if some all-powerful beings had made the same judgment against the Forerunners, a funny reference to the Precursors. Solitude notes that such a judgment was made against the Forerunners in the form of the Flood. Whether by accident or because it figured things out, Solitude is not wrong. The conversation ends with Solitude knocking Vale out. We then jump over to Luther's group. They find an area that should have a map of the Citadel. Drifts is put to work to try and activate it. Meanwhile, Henry finds a downed sentinel of some sort. Though the type is never identified, it's described as having 2 booms and being smaller than an aggressor, perhaps a constructor or a protector sentinel. Anyway, the thing suddenly activates and rips into Henry's throat. Though the sentinel is quickly taken care of, Henry Lamb is too injured to be helped, and he dies in his friend's hands. Because the universe has something of a dark sense of humor, Drifts manages to activate the map just after Henry passes. Luther is then able to identify a passage out, and before leaving, gives a brief prayer for his fallen friend. Following their new path, the four come across a sealed door. Uze and Kola use their energy swords to pry the door open just long enough for Drifts and Luther to make their way through, but are soon attacked by an army of armigers. Luckily, on the other side are the Foundry's controls. Drifts accesses it, confirming the presence of the Ark's monitor, and Luther sets Drifts to work to take control of the Ark. Meanwhile, Kodiak, Holt, Untho, and Zone find their way to Vale's location, though an energy barrier keeps them from reaching her. Vale had recently been reawoken and continued her conversation with Solitude. Unfortunately, she finds that Solitude has launched more Retriever Sentinels, their purpose to clear the solar system of resources, starting at Earth. And, like with Mayhem's trip, this trip will take mere hours, thanks to some fiddling by Solitude. Back with Luther, Drifts is finally able to take control of the Ark systems and opens the door that had separated them from Uze and Kola. To his horror, Luther finds a battered and bleeding Uze on the other side. Alive, conscious, but in terrible condition. Kola is no better off. Still, they're alive and for the moment do not need to move. Unfortunately, while Drifts has control of the Ark, the Retrievers remain under Solitude's control. Vale attempts one last time to stave off the attack on Earth, but to no avail. Solitude means to follow through with his plan, keeping Vale as the last human and using her to reactivate the Halo array. We briefly jump over to Earth, where the Retrievers are pouring through the portal. Though the UNSC brought almost all of Home Fleet to the portal's location, they could not be prepared for what came through. The battle started in the UNSC's favor, but through sheer numbers, the tides quickly turn, and the UNSC finds itself on the defensive. Back on the Ark, Solitude opens a communications channel to Luther and Drifts, telling Vale that he'll halt his attack on Earth if she convinces Luther to give control of the Ark back to him. Vale does the exact opposite, telling Luther to make sure Drifts purges Solitude from the Ark's systems. Gotta admire that conviction. Disappointed, Solitude brings out another human he had kept. This is Broadside 1 from the start of the book, though horribly amalgamated with Forerunner tech to keep him alive. Solitude orders them to fight to the death, and while Vale initially hesitates, Broadside 1 leaps into battle. We jump over to Kodiak, who recognizes the cyborg being as his brother, Bobby. Earlier in the book, we learned that Kodiak had a brother who had been on the UNSC Rubicon. Looking for a way to help Vale and to get to Bobby, Kodiak recalls a data center they passed earlier. They locate it and start firing at everything in sight. To get them to stop, Solitude recalls his Retrievers and takes down the energy barrier. Kodiak then rushes in attending to his long-lost brother, who has but one request: kill me. The reunion is cut short when tragic Solitude attacks again. Bobby, in an act of heroism, attacks the rampant monitor, destroying both it and himself. With their mission seemingly done, the group returns to Mayhem and then takes the portal back to Earth. The book comes to an end as we finish off a number of character arcs. Kodiak suggests Vale join the Spartan branch, Untho and Kodiak reach something of an understanding, and Captain Richards is offered a promotion for her actions, but she declines, stating that she feels she did not earn it, failing to properly lead due to her injury. Luther Mann, noting that teams have since been sent to the Ark to establish a permanent presence, decides that he'd like to finally meet the daughter he knew about but had never been afforded the opportunity to meet. And so, that's Halo Hunters in the Dark. A hell of a book to be sure. While it does have some canon issues, the book is pretty damn good in the end. Olympia Vale is a very strong and well-written character, and after reading this book, I cannot wait to meet her in Halo 5 Guardians. Returning characters like Unthos Raum and Uze Taham are a blast, and their personal character arcs will make playing Halo 3 co-op a whole new experience the next time I decide to do so. The overall story arc is extremely interesting, rewarding longtime fans while making sure not to alienate those who have only limited knowledge of Halo's expanded universe. For this reason, more than any other, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Thanks for joining me, and thank you more for your patience. I know this review was promised a long time ago, and I appreciate you sticking with me. Canon Fodder came out last night, so expect my report on that later this weekend. To all my Canadian viewers, a happy belated Canada Day. To my American viewers, happy 4th of July. This has been Halo Canon, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. It means more than I can express in a few minutes of audio. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it around on whatever social media you see fit, and all that jazz. Thank you so much. Your support is everything. I would not be where I am without you. Thanks.